What's going on, guys? Sticks here with the Token Minorities, bringing you another deck on Pokemon TCGO, and today I'm bringing you an expanded deck centered around not one, but two cards from Burning Shadows that I'd been wanting to do a deck around, and one of those is Noivern-GX, and who's really the centerpiece of the deck, and the other one is Seviper with the More Poison ability. And before I get into the deck, just a reminder that if you guys like this video or found it helpful, please leave a like, drop a comment, click that subscribe button, it helps us out a ton. And lets us do more cool stuff for you guys. And as for the question of the day, with Noivern, the reason I decided to do it in Expanded is because once the rotation happens, Double Dragon will not be in Standard anymore. And Double Dragon is kind of... I mean, you can work around it, but Double Dragon just makes Noivern attacking so much easier. So I was like, you know what, it's not going to be relevant in Standard for much longer, and plus if I do it in Expanded, I can do it with Seviper and Hypnotoxic Laser just to kind of make it a combination deck, and the two actually work pretty well together, not going to lie. But my question of the day is, what do you guys think about the special energy cards for each type coming back? Because slowly but surely they're getting rotated out. Yeah, there are a few that are staying in, like... Strong Energy for sure, off the top of my head, is the one that I know is like had the most significant impact as a... Well, I mean, I guess Double Dragon technically, but like Strong Energy is one that has stayed in, it's been reprinted, and it's going to be staying in this current Standard format if I remember correctly. But my question is, what do you guys think about having these new Special Energy come back, but come back slightly different than the ones they had? Or would you like them just to come back with the same effects that they did before? Not gonna lie, I really like the special energy cards for each type because it really just gave them their own little niche, so to speak. I mean, it allowed them to have one little extra thing that other types would not have access to, and it was limited to only that type. So like fighting types would have the ability to hit for a little bit extra damage with an energy card. Psychic types would have the ability to have 2 or less retreat costs. Dragons, and the big thing with dragons was that they would always have these really funky attack costs, like water and psychic, or dark and psychic, or fairy and water. Basically, like, they were known for having just these super funky attack costs that were very difficult to take care of. Well, Double Dragon just took care of that all. It's like, you know what, every single dragon, we got you. We got you with a card that you can just play onto any dragon, and it takes care of that funky attack cost, so you can run what you actually want to in that deck. So, not gonna lie, I'm a fan of the specialty energy cards, and while I would be okay with them coming back in the same form that they did before, I also think it would be cool if TPCI came up with a different way of handling that, of like maybe fighting types take less damage or something like that. I mean, I know that they did in my opinion, they did a pretty good job with what the specialty energy cards did, being specific to the type. But if they were different, I think that would be really cool. But anyway, onto the deck. Like I said, it is centered around Noivern and Seviper, and this is just kind of a disruption deck that I refuse to run hammers in because I'm not that guy. Noivern, what it does is 200 HP for a Stage 1 GX. So I mean, it's about what you'd expect for a Stage 1. I mean, maybe a little bit less powerful, or a little bit less bulky, but it has 2 big disruption attacks that we are going to be focusing on. Distort for 2 energy, or simple Double Dragon, hits for 50 damage, and your opponent can't play any item cards from his or her hand from their next turn. So basically, item lock. First attack is Quaking Punch, that does 20 more damage, and that 20 actually is pretty significant in some situations. Sonic Volume is the second attack. It's basically Chaos Wheel, except it doesn't lock out tools or stadiums. Your opponent can't play any special energy cards from their hand during their next turn. This can single-handedly win you the match against Nightmarch, because especially now, Nightmarch does not play any... They don't play any energy that isn't DCEs, so being able to Sonic Volume against them is pretty much GG if they don't have one already on board. So you have 2 very powerful disruption attacks. Then you have Boom Burst GX. This attack does 50 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon. Not the best GX attack in the world, but, I mean, it can be nice, can set up some KOs, maybe take some knockouts on like Joltik, Mew, and stuff like that. So in Boom Burst GX, honestly, I'm very underwhelmed by it, but the fact that both of these are so powerful for disruption, I decided to just go with it. And then I'm also pairing it with Seviper because we're doing this in the expanded format. Put in Seviper because disruption attacks in themselves don't do as much as you would want them to. I mean, don't get me wrong. Distort and Sonic Volume actually do pretty good damage for disruption attacks. But you always want more damage on your opponent, so I put in Seviper and Laserbank to be able to rack up a little bit more damage while I item lock or special energy lock my opponent, and it actually worked out pretty well in testing. As for the lines of Pokemon, 4-3 of Noivern through Noibat, or of Noibat through Noivern, I put those backwards. I'm using the Noivern with agility because if you're attacking with Noivern, odds are you want to buy a turn to become... If you're attacking with Noibat, odds are you... Wow, I'm going to be doing that a lot. Odds are you're wanting to buy a turn before you can evolve into Noivern, so agility is a way of being able to get around that. And then 3 Noivern, because if your opponent knocks out 3 Noivern, they win the game anyway, so there's that. 1-1 of Skrelp and... Wow, I'm sorry, that probably came through really badly. 1-1 of Skrelp and Dragalge with the Poison Barrier ability. Your opponent's poison Pokemon can't retreat. Because one way an opponent can get out of our hefty poison, like if we have like 3 Seviper in play in Laserbank and Hip in Virbank City Gym, wow, our opponent will be taking 6 damage counters from poison per turn as opposed to 3, and one way they can get out of that is by retreating. If we have the 1-1 of Skrelp and Dragalge, our opponents will not be able to retreat, so in some cases they will get knocked out coming back into our turn, meaning they won't even really be able to get an attack off, and we'll be able to hit something else during our turn. Absolute max number of Seviper just to rack up as much extra poison damage as we can get. 3 Tapu Lele-GX, just because, I mean, Tapu Lele is amazing, and it gets us any supporter that we want, and I decided to go with that over Shaman just so we have less easy 2 prize targets in this deck. Computer Search is the A-spec of choice because, I mean, it's Computer Search, helps you complete puzzle pieces, get exactly what you want out of the deck at any time. 4-3 of Laser and Bank. 4 Laser because, I mean, Laser works without Bank, Bank does not work without Laser, and also because of having Seviper in this deck, we don't necessarily need Virbank for poison to be racking up on our opponent, meaning that running 4 Laser is even better and we still can get that extra damage just simply because of Seviper. 1 Level Ball, because I'm not running Bridget in this deck. I feel that, like, while Bridget is incredibly powerful, you want to either have Draw or Wally your first turn in certain situations, so Level Ball is a way of kind of working around the whole Bridget thing and still being able to be like, you know what, I didn't have a Bridget, but I still got another Noibat down. 1 Rescue Stretcher as our method of Pokemon recursion, because we're using energy recursion with Special Charge, and Rescue Stretcher is just a lot more flexible with that regard. 4 Ultra Ball, because it guaranteed gets us what we want when we want. 4 VS Seeker, let us reuse all of our supporters. And then as for these supporters, you have 3-3-2 line of Sycamore, N, and Guzma. Running Guzma over Lysander because Noivern has free retreat, so if you can just switch between those two, it's not a bad thing. And also we're running Float Stone as well, so the switch part of Guzma is pretty much almost always good, and because of our free retreat or our Float Stones. So the only reason you're in Lysander is if you don't want that switch drawback. However, the switch drawback really is not a big deal in this deck at all. It's easily worked around, so we have that. Running 1 Acerola so that we can pick up a heavily damaged Noivern, save our special energy, save our Noivern, promote a Noibat, evolve into a Noivern again, play back down that Double Dragon, and boom, we have a Noivern back up, ready to go, and item locking our opponent. So Acerola is very, very, very strong in this deck. And then 1 Wally in case you go second. You can Lele for a Wally if you have a Noibat active, and then you're able to evolve into Noivern, play a Double Dragon onto it, and then item lock immediately. So it's just kind of a way of getting that item lock up very, very quickly, because one of the downsides of this deck is that being a stage 1, it inherently is slower than like Seismitoad lock. However, with Wally, we can potentially get the equivalent of a Quaking Punch lock turn 1 with Wally, so I decided to throw that in there. 3 Choice Band to boost our damage output because, like I said, item lock or just locking attacks in themselves are inherently weaker, although once again these two are actually pretty good compared to other ones. So 3 Choice Bands boost damage output, 2 Float Stones to put on our Seviper so that we don't have to manually attach and retreat them because they do have 2 retreat costs, which is really annoying. absolute max number of Double Dragon because that's really what this deck relies on, and then 6 Psychic Energy to slap onto like Noivern in order to be able to go for Sonic Volume, even potentially Lele for Tapu Cure because you'll probably use that attack as much as you use the Boom Burst GX attack. So yeah, that's the deck. Let's go ahead and see it in action. Alrighty, we have found one against Danila Laz with, I mean, it kind of looks like Night March, but it doesn't have, like, the Lightning and the Psychic are in the wrong order, so this is probably like Manectric Bats. I mean, that's, at least I'm assuming that's normally what I see when, I mean, I guess it could be Coco. Sorry, I'm just, like, my mind's in expanded mode for obvious reasons. But then again, if you're playing Quad Coco, you'd probably be in Standard, so... I mean, this could also just be like a Mega Manectric Jolteon deck. So, I mean, okay, there's plenty of things that it could come up as. It's just when I used to play Expanded all the time, it would come up that it was Manectric Bats more often than not. But, I mean, I guess the Coco sleeves kind of tell me that it's probably a Tapu Koko deck of sorts. So, yeah, I'm probably wrong. Let's be real. I do start off with a Noibat and a Seviper, which is... actually really nice. And okay, it is Manectric, so is it Manectric Bats? That's the big question. I mean, it could be Manectric Coco. Ooh, Mega Manectric Tapu Koko. That sounds like a pretty cool deck idea. I might have to try that out at some point. But either way, if I can get a laser, I can hit this Manectric for 40 damage in between turns and potentially even more with agility if I'm able to hit heads off of that. So I think that's going to be what I am attempting to go for in this situation. He does just Battle Compressor away some stuff. I'm assuming it was just a couple supporters. Well, yeah, it was obviously a supporter if he's playing via Seeker and grabs. And that's actually fine with me because, I mean, even though my hand was pretty solid, I mean, a 6-card hand is... I mean... on paper, a 6-card hand is always better than a 5-card hand. Now, granted, there are 6-card hands, it's just like 6 energy, and a 5-card hand could be like the perfect 5 cards in the universe. But, you know what? I'm actually okay with this, because I end up getting... do I want to play Skrelp down? I think, you know what? I think the fact that I'm going to poison the Manectrics is going to come in handy, and then let's Sycamore... I put a Noivern into the discard pile, it's not a huge deal. But what I do get is a laser. So let's put an energy on the Noibat. Because I have the Double Dragon, I can always just grab a Noivern with that next turn if my opponent manages to knock out the active Noibat. And then let's Agility, hit this Manectric for some decent damage. Unfortunately, I get Tails, and does my opponent wake up? He does not. So even though I did get Tails on the Agility, the fact that my opponent stayed asleep just helps out that much more. And my opponent will actually... never mind. I was going to say my opponent's going to be in range of Noivern knocking it out with the item lock attack next turn with the poison, but because of that Rough Seas, he will not, unless I can get another Seviper into play. Oh, here we go. So what I can do... ah, crap, I can't do that because I had to play the Virbank down. What I was going to say is I could get rid of my Double Dragon and the Virbank and then put it back with Special Charge, but unfortunately I cannot because I had to play the Virbank in order to get the poison. Let's grab that Noivern, play it onto the Noibat, play the Double Dragon onto it, and then Lele for a Sycamore. That way just get me a fresh hand, see if I can get another Seviper down and potentially another Noivern to evolve. And we're actually in a very good position. My opponent doesn't have much of anything. I will get a Choice Band onto this Noivern. Let's Ultra Ball, get rid of probably just an energy in the other Ultra Ball to grab. I could grab another Seviper, or I could grab a Noivern and then play Lele for a supporter next turn. But then that would mean I would only have one Seviper in play. And also I don't have my Dragalge. The Dragalge is prized. So I think the play is actually to grab another Noivern. That way I leave that bench spot open for Lele next turn to be able to play that down and then get a supporter. So I will be 10 damage short of a knockout, which I could have gotten had I played another Seviper. But what I did was leave it to where my opponent unfortunately stayed asleep for them. I mean, that just kind of sucks. But he gets knocked out coming back into my turn. And then with the poison plus the 120 damage attack from Noivern, I'm just going to be referring to those two. Sonic Volume, that's what it was. So Distort and Sonic Volume, like I'm going to keep forgetting those. Like I literally just talked about it, and I just talked about Noivern. But I'm going to keep forgetting those. So let's go ahead and laser up this Manectric. Play the energy onto the other Noivern in case my damage calculation is off. Then hit this Manectric with a Sonic Volume, does 150 damage, and then the 50 from Poison will knock it out. And we will be able to take that first game very, very quickly. So the fact that my opponent wasn't able to play items, I think might have come in handy in terms of keeping him from being able to grab something else that would have allowed him to live through the next turn. And Noivern just very quickly was able to come through and win that match when combined with Hypnotoxic Laser. So that was a solid first one. Let's go ahead and try to find another one with this deck. Alrighty, we have found another one against a Glass Flask with a pure Dragon deck. So this could be one of two things. Well, actually, it can't even be Fluffy Chomp. So I'm guessing this is a type of Dragon deck that is just focused on completing a daily challenge. So, I mean, again, that's just what I'm guessing. Although, I mean, I could very well be wrong. But either way, we do get to go first. I start off with some really, really good stuff. Start off with a Noibat and 2 Seviper. I'm going to hold off playing the second Seviper for the time being. Just because, what the heck? Oh, is this like a Gudra deck? I mean, I'll get a couple cards off of those mulligans. But I might actually be able to win this game on the first turn if my opponent doesn't draw the right stuff. So I'm definitely going to play the second Seviper down. I just was kind of holding off just in case there was something else I wanted to play. And I get just a couple more supporters. That is fine. Ooh, I get a Gumi. How much is Gumi? 40 HP. If I am able to draw a Hypnotoxic Laser, then I just win. Like, plain and simple, I win turn 1. So what I'm going to go ahead and do, Ultra Ball for Noibat. I mean, this thins out my deck and also sets up in the event that I don't draw the Hypnotoxic Laser, but I feel like I draw enough that I should be able to get it. And then let's Ultra Ball again, get rid of the Psychic Energy and the N. Again, thinning my deck out as much as possible so that I'm able to draw into that. So that I'm able to draw into the Hypnotoxic Laser, hopefully. Sycamore, let's see if I get it. And I do not get it. That sucks. So, I mean, I would have been able to just win the game that turn otherwise, but I mean, I'm not in a horrible position because I will be able to get a Noivern up turn 2. I'll be able to Sycamore. I have the Double Dragon in my hand, all that stuff. So, I mean, it's not the end of the world, but at the same time, like, being able to win first turn would have been really, really nice. My opponent does just attach a Fairy Energy to the Gumi, and then gets a Crushing Hammer. I mean, it doesn't matter because I'll be able to knock out this Gumi anyway, but just, well, okay, I win. So I even top deck Computer Search, which would have been nice last turn, but it really doesn't matter. So what I'm going to do, you know what, let's go for the GX attack. I mean, it doesn't matter. It knocks out the Gumi, and I'm able to take the win with Noivern. So, yeah, that was the most, probably one of the weakest GX attacks you'll ever see. Hit for a whopping 50 damage, and man, that was way too quick. Let's go ahead and try to find another one with this deck. Alrighty, we have found yet another one against Ruiz Gardener with a Psychic, Lightning, and Fighting deck. So, wait, is this Marshadow Night March? Or, what was it? March Shadow, I think somebody came up with. I forgot the name. I feel bad, but somebody put that in the comment section of my Marshadow Night March video. And they said it, not me. I just want to throw that out there. I do start off with a Noibat and some pretty solid stuff, actually. I think this is... oh boy. Well, what I can do at least is recycle my Double Dragon. So let's go ahead and Lele to grab probably a... let's grab Wall. Do I want to grab Wally? You know what? Let's go ahead and do that. That way I can hold on to my DCEs. yeah, it will potentially, well, it can potentially backfire with if Marshadow's able to knock me out. But this way, if I'm able to lock my opponent out of special energy, then I will just win the game. So I think Seviper is going to be less useful in this game, and I think Noivern is just going to be the way I have to go. And then, yeah, let's go ahead and put that energy back with Special Charge, and then end my turn right there. So it'll be interesting to see. Okay, plays the Fighting Fury Belt down, Acrobikes. Yeah, this is actually going to be kind of tough if I'm not able to knock out this Marshadow in one hit. Ideally, I will Field Blower away its Fighting Fury Belt. I'll get rid of its Fighting Fury Belt, and then Sonic Volume for the knockout with Poison, while being able to, while locking him out of Special Energy. Because once I do that, I think I plain and simple just win. Yeah, Juniper, I mean, when he grabbed the Lampent with the Ultra Ball, then that was pretty much guaranteed. Like, okay, he's 1000% got a Juniper as the last card in his hand. Getting rid of more Night Marchers. He has 8 at this point. This is looking kind of spooky, because he'll be able to hit me for a ton of damage right now. And if I'm not able to knock out this Marshadow with Sonic Volume, I'm going to be in a bad spot. So let's go ahead and Sycamore away my hand. Well, Sycamore away the N. Get an energy. Unfortunately, no laser. So there goes that hope. And no Choice Band, and no nothing, and no Virbank, no laser. I missed a lot of stuff that turn. But what I can do is Ultra Ball away the N and the Skrelp to grab another Seviper. Just because I think I'm going to need that poison later. And then I'm going to hold on to the Float Stone for the time being, and then let's just Sonic Volume the Marshadow for not the knockout, but potentially in range of Distort plus Poison next turn. So that's going to be what I have to bank off of. And nope. My opponent just forfeited. I'm really not sure why, because he would have been able to knock out my Noivern, and I would not have been able to go for Sonic Volume that next turn and deny him Special Energy once again. Like, if I was able to continually Sonic Volume, then I would win the game if I knocked out his attackers. But at that point, he still would have knocked me out. I would not have been able to Sonic Volume, and he still would have had the ability to attach a DC. So I don't know why my opponent forfeited there. But nonetheless, we take those. These matches are going way too quickly. Let's go ahead and try to find another one. Alrighty, we have found another one against, is this another Night March deck? Oh my gosh, that would be really funny if it was. Maybe, ooh, we do win the coin flip. Maybe I can get a donk. Maybe I can get a donk on this one. I mean, Marshadow has significantly decreased my ability to, get consistent donks on Night March, and yeah, this is confirmed that my opponent does have Night March. So let's see, how many times do I mulligan? Only once. So, well, I mean, the fact that I'm going to have to get rid of 2 Noivern isn't ideal. But otherwise, I start with some pretty solid stuff with the Noibat and the Seviper, and then also the Virbank. So let's see, does my opponent starts Lone Joltik? I win. So Virbank, Laser, and come on, go through. You can do it. You can do it, TCGO. And there we go. So, and end the turn, and I win the game. So, yeah, that happened again. And, man, all these expanded matches are just going by so quickly today. I mean, at least I got to show off a donk. So, there's that. But, yeah, let's go ahead and try to find another one. Hopefully a longer one, so I don't just have a bunch of, like, 2-second matches. Alrighty, we have found another one against Peaches MN with a water and normal deck. So, I mean, at least it's not Night March, so that's something. We do win the coin flip, so we will get to go first. That is really nice. What's less nice is starting with Lele. But at least I'll be able to level ball for a Noibat. And then I can always just Acerola up my Lele later if I want to. And okay, so this is an Alolan. Oh, okay, so this is an Alolan Ninetails deck. So let's go ahead and level ball. grab that Noibat, play that down, Choice Bandit, grab put a Psychic Energy on the Lele, because this way I can just retreat out into my Noibat next turn and distort, and then I could Wally, but the far superior play is just ending. That way I don't have to get rid of some pretty solid resources and a Noivern. And there we go. So this actually works out beautifully for next turn. I will be able to Ultra Ball for a Noivern, play that down onto the Noibat, slap the Double Dragon on there, retreat my Lele into the Noivern, and then go for Distort against whatever my opponent decides to bring, or whatever my opponent leaves active. And then I still have my option of supporters for next turn, so I can, and if my opponent decides to beacon, which I'm pretty much guaranteeing that he will, or I can Sycamore if my opponent decides not to. So I have options either way. My opponent does just attach a DCE onto his benched Lowland Vulpix, and then he is going to beacon, so I am 100% going to go for end this turn, especially because we do see that Luminous Barrier Ninetails. Do not want to have to deal with that at all. So what I'm going to do, Ultra Ball, get rid of the Sycamore and the Psychic Energy. Actually, you know what? Can I get rid of the N? Actually, let's get rid of the Psychic Energy. That way I save the VS Seeker for later in the game, especially considering the fact that my opponent has Luminous Barrier Ninetails. I'm going to have to play around that. So let's play that there. Go ahead and N, get a fresh hand, and I get a Seviper plus a Float Stone. So the thing is, do I want to play that onto the Lele, or do I want to put it on the Seviper? I think the play is just put it on Seviper. Lele, 1 retreat cost anyway, so it's not a gigantic deal if I have to get rid of a Psychic Energy in order to retreat it out. And then I'm just going to Distort, lock my opponent out of items, and then next turn I can just end once again, slap another Double Dragon onto my Noivern, and go from there. So I'm actually still in a very nice position. Glaceon is going to be a problem, but I think we can deal with that with the poison and whatnot. So yeah, we're in a pretty solid position actually. The fact that Manaphy's on the bench is just a free 2 prizes later in the game if I want to take that, and the fact that I've locked my opponent out of items does just evolve into a Lowland Ninetails. So that's pretty nice. Let's see, what else? What did he have to get rid of? Had to get rid of a Field Blower, which, I mean, could have played the Field Blower in order to be able to get rid of my Float Stone and my Choice Band, but fortunately for me, he did not. He will be able to Ice Blade right here and go for, and get the Rough Seas going. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that my opponent just draws into VS Seekers and doesn't have supporters. So as long as I keep distorting, my opponent will not be able to, as long as I keep distorting, my opponent will not be able to use like Aqua Patch or Max Elixir to get more energy on board, meaning he will be limited to that 1 attachment per turn. I think I'm just going to play the Double Dragon onto the Noivern, because it's not in any danger of being knocked out this turn. Like, it is in absolutely 0 danger of getting knocked out. So I can go ahead and play that down, and here we go. So I get another Noibat. I can get another Noivern set up in the background if I continue to distort. My opponent will not be able to attach more energy. That's what I'm trying to say, and will not be able to get a knockout next turn. Won't be able to VS Seeker, Choice Band, get rid of my Choice Bands, all that stuff. So I think then also this way, if my opponent goes for an Ice Path GX, I could have gone for a Sonic Volume and done a lot more damage, but Distort this way puts it in range of 2-hit KO with never mind. I was about to say puts it in range of a potential 2-hit KO if I'm able to get Poison Up as well with Distort, and that way I can keep the item lock and also prevent Ice Path GX from being able to do significant enough damage. Here we go. So what I can do is play the Noivern down, play the Double Dragon onto it, laser the Ninetails. I think I'll have to Sonic Volume this turn, and then I could have Ultra Balled for another Seviper, but it really, I don't know. I wanted to keep what I had. I wanted to just make sure that I had the Sycamore and had a supporter, because I can even get one this turn, so I'm hitting for 150, 190. That's actually just enough. Yeah, that's actually just enough to be able to knock out the Ninetails, but you know what? I think I'm going to want another Seviper anyway. Yeah, let's grab another Seviper. I mean, I have the knockout already on board with Sonic Volume, with Choice Banded Sonic Volume, plus the 5 damage counters from Poison, but I might as well make sure that I have more damage counters late game anyway. And yeah, the play is to definitely Sonic Volume. The Ninetails will get knocked out by Poison. I will take 2 prizes, and my opponent has a whole lot of nothing set up in the background. Yes, I do give him access to items again, but I mean, I knock out his Ninetails. He can Ice Blade again with another Ninetails, but all I have to do, the Field Blower comes down, so I knew that was coming. Like, I knew as soon as I got rid of his, I knew as soon as I left the item lock that my opponent would be able to draw out of it. But at least this way, okay, my opponent ends me, that's fine. I can just distort once again next turn if my opponent doesn't have a Ninetails, which he does. I mean, that makes sense that he would, and is able to Ice Blade once again. So wait, I actually think I can knock it out once again because of what I drew. I think what I drew is actually perfect. Oh, and then the VS Seeker just to cap it all off. I mean, that was unnecessary VS Seeker, but man, that was nice. So what I'm going to be able to do, play the laser, play down the Virbank, play the Choice Band, grab a Sycamore, and this was a case where N came in super clutch for me. I really do like N in this situation. I have lasers in my hand for next turn, and then what I can do is just once again Sonic Volume the Ninetails, keep my opponent from being able to attach DCEs, which keeps Glaceon from being powered up very quickly, and with the Poison I take 2 more prizes. So now that my opponent is locked out of DCEs, he has to rely on just water energy in order to be able to potentially attach and win, or have any chance at winning. And I think Noivern might just steamroll my opponent, because what I can also do is, even if my opponent gets rid of my Virbank, ends me down, as long as I have Guzma, I can always just knock out the Manaphy with a Sonic Volume. And my opponent does just, I mean, making all the right plays to potentially have a chance, but I think at this point I just win regardless. Yeah, even if my opponent left up Glaceon, the fact that he countered my Virbank with my Seviper on the bench, Hypnotoxic Laser still does 30 damage, which, I mean, the 2 Seviper essentially equate to a Virbank, so I would have been able to knock out the Glaceon with Choice Band anyway, and at this point I think my opponent can't win. Yeah, he does just plays that down. I'm going to bring up the Manaphy, go into my other Noivern, and then just win the game with a Sonic Volume, knocking out the Manaphy. I could have gone for style points and brought up the Glaceon and knocked it out with a combination of Laser plus Sonic Volume, but I decided to not be too BM, just bring up what I needed to knock it out and win the game. So yeah, I mean, I finally got a good game with this deck. We just had a bunch of really short ones, but regardless, I hope you guys enjoy this deck. I tried to bring you a little bit different version from what other people are bringing, and also combine it with Seviper. But regardless, once again, hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff, and this is Styx signing out. Why not? See you guys.